let's take a trip around the curve. SAG-AFTRA and the WGA are feeling signs of hope as the WGA and AMPTP resume negotiations next week. Ron Cephas Jones, an Emmy Award-winning actor for his role as William Hill on This Is Us, has died. He was 66. Rest in peace, my brother. He was a wonderfully, truly gifted artist. Meryl Streep, Oprah Winfrey, Michael B. Jordan, Sofia Coppola are to be honored at an Academy Museum Gala set for October 14th. Tron Ares is delayed indefinitely due to the strikes. Extremely frustrating, said director Joachim Ronning. Michael Orr, the former NFL player and subject of the 2009 movie The Blind Side, alleged in a court filing that the family who took him in as a young player had deceived him about being adopted and deprived him of his earnings from the Oscar-nominated film. The family hit back through a rebuttal with their high-powered entertainment lawyer, saying that Orr's claims are not only offensive, but transparently ridiculous. Stay tuned on this one, baby. I'm sure this is far from over. Andrew Lopez, Platonic, and The Bear Standout signed this week with M88. Congratulations. Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal's Amazon sci-fi movie gets a fall release. LeBron James and John Legend joined the $2 million financing round for Matthew Berry's sports media startup. Sean Levy is to be honored with the Toronto International Film Festival inaugural Norman Jewison Career Achievement Award. Ariana DeBose's sci-fi thriller ISS lands at Bleecker Street, and former Girlfriend star Jill Marie Jones is cast in The Chi in a huge guest starring role. Oscar winner Daniel Kaluuya's feature directorial debut, The Kitchen, is set to close the London Film Festival, and Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine partners with Making Space Media on unscripted content, placing disabled talent front and center. Shia LaBeouf is to make his stage debut in David Mamet's play Henry Johnson, and A League of Their Own has canceled. Prime Video will not be proceeding with the second and final season amid the strikes. We are going to review Hulu's Miguel Wants to Fight, Netflix's epic animated feature, The Monkey King. Tiffany Haddish and Wesley Snipes head back to the Strip, and Blue Beetle is in a theater near you. Plus, I have an interview with Menace II Society, Dead Presidents, and Dear Mama director Allen Hughes. All that coming up on The Curvy Critic right now.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.
Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Yeah, you know it's shooting straight from the hip.
This is Carla Renata, aka The Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know it's shooting straight from the hip.
Well, hello, everybody. Oops. Child, there's always shenanigans with my hair and my face every single time. But what is up? Let me scoot back a little bit. Baby, I'm coming to you live from the Hurricane Earthquake Central of America. Ooh, baby, Hurricane Hillary is wreaking havoc through the West Coast, the Midwest, the East Coast. She has touched down in Baja, California. And in the middle of her touching down, an earthquake hit Southern California. So I was like, really? We gonna get an earthquake and rain? Okay, I see you. I see you, universe. What the hell is going on? But I digress. Thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode of The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. I am your host, Carla Renata. And what we do here is we talk about movies, and we do some reviews, and we talk to people above and below the line in the film industry. That actually has shifted quite drastically because, as we know, WGA, the Writers Guild of America, and SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and American Federation for TV and Radio Artists have been on strike. WGA has been on strike for over 100 days. SAG has been on strike for a little over 30 days. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, as I said in the package prior to the show. WGA and AMPTP are resuming talks next week. So keep your fingers crossed that a sister can like continue to do some interviews and work. Having said that, give me a big thumbs up if this is your first time here. Give me a big thumbs up to let me know you were here, because I don't know you watching it if you don't tell me, and that's the only way I know that you tell me. I always like to check in with my peeps, and Brandon, tried and true as always, he left me a message. He says he's going to watch The Monkey King later and heard decent things, and the animation school is going well. I am so glad to hear that, Brandon. I hope that the animation school thing is really quite fruitful for you. So I usually talk about what I did the week before, and because there's been a strike, there hasn't been a lot to do the week before industry wise, but I've been like, cleaning up my house and, getting my things in order, getting my papers and things in order, along with my family's papers and things in order. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. But in addition to that, as we talk about SAG, I am actually running for a delegate seat on the Unity ticket, which is like 100 and something people together, with 2 tickets coming together as one, for SAG-AFTRA. So yes, SAG-AFTRA is having an election during the strike. I am on that slate. I am number 137, and you will get something in the mail, but you will not get my picture. But what you will get if you are a SAG member is this, and you will see my name at number 137. Running alongside me are Fran Drescher and Jolie Fisher, running for the national officer candidates, and Emmy winner Shirley Ralph and Emmy nominee Jody Long and David Joliffe are running for the LA local board officer candidates. There are 133 delegate seats that are open. And then over to the left of your screen are all the other people who are running, and you see their names and faces, and a lot of them you will recognize. The QR code rather, at the bottom of your ballot, you can vote like that as well, or at least get the guide and see it a little closer up than what you're seeing right now. So I just wanted to tell you guys that, and we'll go ahead and get into it because there's a lot to cover. So I saw this film on Hulu called Miguel Wants to Fight. It's directed by Oz Rodriguez. It's written by Shea Serrano and Jason Concepcion. I love Jason's name, Concepcion. And it stars Tyler Dean Flores as Miguel. It's a coming-of-age comedy about 17-year-old Miguel, who asks his 3 best friends to help him get in his first fight ever before he moves to a new city. Now, the thing with Miguel is that Miguel, usually with his friends, he didn't want to fight. He wasn't trying to fight. He was shy away from the fight. He'd be that one friend of yours when everybody else was duking it out. He was hiding somewhere, trying not to get hit. That totally would have been me, but actually, I was the one getting bullied and running home from school. But that's a whole nother discussion. Insti-who, Dasha Polanco has a nice little cameo in here as Miss Rodriguez, one of his school teachers. It's a really cute teen comedy. There's nothing unusual about it. There's nothing crazy about it. The dialogue is kind of fire, and I really like the way Jason and Shay wrote it, because it was funny. I enjoyed the dialogue a lot. And there were some dream sequences that Miguel would have, dreaming about what kind of warrior he would be if he was kicking butt and taking names. And 2 of the dream sequences that they do are from The Matrix and Enter the Dragon. I mean, they went all out with the Enter the Dragon one too. They have him in a exact replica of what Bruce Lee wore, that yellow jumpsuit with the black stripes down the side. And they also use that same outfit in Kill Bill, the Quentin Tarantino film. But that made me, I laughed out loud. It was so funny. But check it out. Again, it is called Miguel Wants to Fight, and it is on Hulu. The Monkey King is on Netflix. It is a 2023 computer animated fantasy action drama film inspired by the classic Ming Dynasty novel Journey to the West, an epic Chinese tale. Epic, epic, epic Chinese tale. So having said that, this is what it's about. So it's action packed. It's an action packed comedy. It's like an animated comedy musical centered around this monkey, which you see pictured there, and his magical stick, which he's holding. And he's battling demons and dragons and gods, and the greatest adversary of them all, himself. Now, I'm going to come back on camera for this one because you need to hear what a sister got to say. So it's being voiced by, let me see, who's the voice cast? Okay, here we go. So It's directed by Anthony Stacchi, and Jimmy O Yang is the voice of the Monkey King. Jimmy O Yang is a really gifted Asian comedian, and I'm just saying Asian comedian for the purposes of this film, but he's a comedian. Like, I don't really need to put his ethnicity on it, but for the sake of doing this review, I'm gonna do that this time around. Um, Also, who else is in it? Uh, Joe Coy is in it, and Joe Coy and Jimmy O Yang were in a film last year. I think it was called Easter Sunday that Joy Coy wrote. So they have been collaborating quite a bit. Bowen Yang is the voice of the Dragon King. Stephanie Hsu has a really small part as the mayor's wife, and Jolie Huang Rappaport plays Lin, the Monkey King's assistant. So this is what is hilarious about the Monkey King to me. So he has this stick, right? It's like the best way to describe it is like an Asian animated Star Wars, and the stick is the Force. It's kind of hilarious and really absurd, but it's super funny. But the seriousness of it kicks in when when I mentioned the description before, I talked about how the greatest adversary of his own, the Monkey King's own, is himself, right? In his ego. It's a great lesson in how one's ego can hurt us or how it can help us, and how you can treat everyone with kindness and respect despite what they can or cannot do for you. That is the biggest lesson in the Monkey King that I think people will learn as they watch it. I would not advise someone under 12 years old watching this, because I think it's a little more mature themed, but it's on Netflix, so people will do what they want to do. It also taps into the idea of instant karma. What you put out comes out, and there's a lot of Buddhist philosophies in this, like turning poison into medicine is a Buddhist philosophy. I practice Buddhism, that we go to when we are faced with some type of adversity or a challenge. Instead of leaning into whatever that is, we try to flip it around and make it work for the good, instead of harping on the bad that it's doing. The Monkey King has some good things about it, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous fun. And the only person in it that kind of grounds the whole thing is the young lady who plays Lin, Jolie Hyung Rappaport. She is the one character that kind of grounds the whole thing and keeps it in a real human place, right? And so, if nothing else, it's worth it just to hear her performance, because she's actually quite stellar. Again, that's The Monkey King, and it is streaming on Netflix right now. And that's the stick before that's the stick before it turns into a stick. It's in the ocean. It's a whole situation. I didn't tell you much about it because I don't want to ruin it for you. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that person that's just like telling you the whole movie in a review, because I kind of hate when people do that to me. So there's that. Back on the Strip is an independent film. It is produced by MMJ Productions and Luminosity Releasing, and it's written by Chris Spencer and Eric Daniel. Now, you guys are going to know Chris Spencer's name because I'm going to come back on camera, because Chris Spencer is one of these people that he's been a stand-up comedian forever. He's had his own talk show at one point. He does every time you watch, any award show, the BET Awards, the Oscars, the Grammys, you name it, Chris Spencer is the person usually writing the script for it. So now he stepped from behind the award show plate, and he has penned and directed his own project. And it stars Wesley Snipes, Tiffany Haddish, J.B. Smoove, Colleen Camp, Spence Moore II, Faison Love, and Bill Bellamy and Gary Owen. And this is what it deals with. So Spence Moore plays Merlin, and he's an aspiring magician. His whole life, all he's wanted to do is do magic. Sometimes he was good at it, sometimes he wasn't. But then he starts to make moves to Vegas to pursue his magic and do an act on the Strip, only to end up joining a male stripper group. Now, the thing that's funny about this is because when you think about a young Black man joining a stripper group, it doesn't sound any different than Magic Mike, right? This is like Chocolate Magic Mike gone wrong. These are the strippers, what they look like back in the day. And you can tell that they just cut and pasted somebody's head on somebody else's body, and that none of these brothers have bodies like that, except for maybe Wesley and Bill might have some abs like that. But you know, Gary Owens and JB Smoove are not rocking no abs like that. You know that they not. This is what they look like when they were called they were called the chocolate chips. This is the chocolate chips then, and this is the chocolate chips now. Baby, I hollered out loud because the thing that makes it so funny is that when you think about strippers on a strip, you think about certain guys looking a certain way, and they were not it. There's a lot of crude jokes. I mean, it's taking place in Vegas. It's taking place on the strip, like right behind one of the major casinos in like some little dive hotel. And the B story of it is the woman who was the manager for the chocolate chips, who helped each one of them at some point get on their feet. Her hotel is in danger of being sold. And so they do one last show to help her get the money to buy her hotel back, and shenanigans ensue. There's a little love story. It's cute, but it's predictable. It's corny and hilarious. And a lot of what is said is really going to only resonate with Black people or people of color because it's stuff that only we will get. And I remember going to a screening, and Chris Spencer was talking about how one of his producers was telling him that he needed to try to find a way to take the script from Inglewood to Hollywood. Um, Most of the time that happens, but a lot of times it still stays in Inglewood. It's like a broke down version of Magic Mike with Black middle-aged strippers past their prime, redefining realistically what a stripper looks like, because they actually end up doing a show looking the latter version that I showed you, and the girls are losing their minds. So I guess sexy is sexy no matter what package it come in. And that is the moral of the story. Colleen Camp plays Rita, the hotel manager. She is a scene stealer for every time she opens her mouth. It is freaking hilarious. And Wesley Snipes is right along with her. Wesley Snipes has taken this nosedive into comedy the last couple of years with Coming to America and this film. And this is kind of seemed to be carving out a new lane in cinema for him. I kind of like this lane for him. He's freaking hilarious. I love him in this lane. But back on the strip, it's okay. It's okay. It's fun, it's fluffy, it's not to be taken too seriously. Like I said, Wesley Snipes Wesley Snipes is fire in it. He has like this little twitch every time he talks. It's so stupid. And Spence Moore the second, who plays Merlin, is actually quite enjoyable and quite lovely. So that is only in theaters now. Back on the Strip is only in theaters now. The big film to hit the theaters this week is Blue Beetle. It's a DC comic movie produced by Warner Brothers. It is also only in theaters. It's directed by Angel Manuel Soto. And I spoke with him a couple of years ago for Film Independent for Charm City Kings. If you go on my social media, you can go see that link to that interview because I did put it back up. It stars Jolo Marduena, who plays, Jaime Reyes. And the film basically centers around not only this young man becoming the first Latino superhero, but it centers around his family. So this is the gist of it. So an alien scarab chooses Jaime to be its symbolic host, bestowing the teenager with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary and unpredictable powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero known as Blue Beetle. Like I said, let me come back on camera for this one because I got some things to say about Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle is going to end up being it started outperforming really well, and now the numbers are kind of going down. I'm sure the hurricane and the earthquake in California had a lot to do with that, but it's going to end up doing well. This film is going to be the superhero film for the Latino community, like Black Panther was for Black people. That is the impact it's going to have. It is super smart. It is super savvy. It is super funny. Yes, it falls into the typical superhero tropes of somebody falling in love and there being a villain, yeah. But the thing that makes this particular film special is just like in the Black Panther, the thing that made the Black Panther special was the culture. The thing that makes Blue Beetle special is the culture. So they lean into the Latino culture. We get to enjoy the food and the camaraderie and the joking and the family ride or die-ness that happens. Is really, and this is the first time there's been a superhero film with a mostly Latino cast and a Latino director. So that is making history the same way that Black Panther made history. The script is by Gareth Dunnett Alcacer, whose last film was Miss Baja with Gina Rodriguez. So but this is a Miss Baja was a fair to Midland film that was directed by Catherine Hardwicke, the same woman who did all the Twilight films. This film, Blue Beetle, is a little more, so there was a little bit more at stake for him, and I think he did an excellent job. Blue Beetle kind of sort of feels like a Latino Iron Man who's kind of leveled up. And you just want Jaime and the Reyes family to prevail over whatever obstacles that they have coming near them. You just want them to prevail all the time because it just has that vibe. The whole time you're rooting for him to succeed. You're hoping that he can get stuff together. And the Reyes family pictured right there, two of the members of the Reyes family on the far right are Nana and Nana Reyes, who's played by Adriana Barraza, and George Lopez. Baby, they steal the movie. I need to see a Blue Beetle sequel with just the two of them because they were freaking hilarious. George Lopez is a standout because he kind of plays Uncle Rudy, who's like a Latino Doc Brown, like from Back to the Future. He is, and I love that. I love that they gave George Lopez that kind of character to play. I love that Nana Reyes is reliving her what her I don't know, her days as a rebel, and just really going in, baby. There's a moment where she suits up this gun and you're like, well, okay, Nana Reyes, I see you. Susan Sarandon as the villain. I need for Susan Sarandon to be a villain in every film from now on. She absolutely killed it as Victoria Cord. And the Cord family, they're the family that is causing the conflict because they have created this entity that literally can take over the world in a really horrible way and create beings, AI beings, so to speak. So it kind of speaks very closely to what we're going through in real life. Jaime's dad, played by the fantabulous Damien Alcazar, he is absolutely wonderful. His performance is heartfelt. You just want that he just wants the best for his family. But the Reyes family was everything. They came off as very, very real, very, very relatable, which a lot of times in these films they do not. Jenny Cord, who's played by the wonderful Jenny Marcazine, is absolutely stellar in it as well. She's not too much, she's not too little, she's just the right, and she plays Susan Sarandon's niece. But this is what I will say about Blue Beetle. I loved that they gave her a little bit of backstory because the whole time that this beetle is on Jaime, you're trying to figure out why she keeps wanting to get it back from him and what that means for her. And once they get to his house, you get a little bit of backstory. But baby, by the time that happens, the film is almost over. So I'm like, I wish that they had addressed that a little early on because once they get into it, it's like, okay, we're going to take this detour for a second and then we're going to take this detour to talk about Jenny, but then we're going to get back to the action. It was crazy. But the long and the short of it is I really enjoyed Blue Beetle. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't sleepy. I wasn't bored. There was a little section in the middle where it was like, wah, wah, wah. I wasn't bored. I was just like, okay, can we just move past this real quick? And that was it. So again, I'm just going to remind y'all of what I have discussed and we'll get into the interview. So again, Miguel Wants to Fight is streaming on Hulu. Back on the Strip is in theaters right now. Blue Beetle is in theaters right now. And did I talk about something else? I don't think I did I? Oh, and The Monkey King. And The Monkey King is on Netflix right now. Okay, cool. Now, we have been talking about the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And one of the films that made an indelible impression during the hip hop era was a film called Menace to Society, starring Lorenz Tate, where he plays Old Dog. And this film, it was Jada Pinkett was in here, Lorenz Tate was in here, and this was the Hughes brothers' biggest film. There is Allen Hughes, one half of the Hughes brothers. Now, Allen Hughes has a film called Dear Mama, a documentary that talks about the life and the legacy of Tupac and Afeni Shakur. Afeni Shakur is Tupac's mother. It is streaming on Netflix. It's probably going to be nominated for an Emmy. They're in the Emmy race and being heavily considered at the moment. And so I was fortunate enough to sit down and have a conversation with him about his time working with Tupac, working on Dear Mama, what his feelings are about Afeni's legacy, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, take a look and a listen to this interview with Allen Hughes from Dear Mama on FX Hulu. There have been many projects over the years that have talked about Tupac's legacy, talked about his influence on the musical world and globally in general, but nobody has ever, to my knowledge, approached his story through the lens of his mother and his background as a Panther. I'm just curious to know, and I know that the project is called Dear Mama, so this might be an obvious answer, but why did you decide to focus it from that lens? Because it very easily could have been one of those things where, you know, his legacy was glorified and you did not shy away from those hard moments that make him and Afeni not look lovely.
Yeah, I was raised by a feminist activist, single mother who was on the front lines of the women's rights movement. So I related to having a mother that was that active in the movement. Although their movements were different, they were all one in marching towards human rights, you know. And also, you losing your mother to the struggle because she's so dedicated to that. I can relate to all that, and not because of the times, but because I was raised. I'm like, you know, a lot of women get erased from history, particularly women of color. So I was very sensitive to that. And the number one thing was like, what was Tupac's original purpose and mission in life? And it was social justice. It got away from him a little bit there in the death row years, but he was young, and you know, you go through your levels and your progressions, and he would have gotten back to it. So I just wanted to make sure that we focused the legacy on what was important and what the original true intent was of Afeni Shakur.
Having said that, we've talked a little bit about what the legacy of Tupac is, how that's held up during this 50th year of hip hop. But how do you feel like Afeni's legacy as the mother of somebody that was so huge in the hip hop culture, and she had her own identity within the culture after he passed away? How do you think her identity is held up?
I think Afeni's identity is evolving to what it was meant to originally be, which is this heroic and flawed figure in the civil rights movement, as we all are. You know, no one's perfect, but I think her struggles show that, and her honesty about her struggles show how human and honest, you know, like she's a really like well-rounded, honest, frank person. So sometimes people couldn't handle that about her. And I think Dear Mama is the first piece of, I'm sure, several that'll come that will cement her legacy as a social justice warrior and an incredible mother, obviously. And she was a mother to many, as far as you know, her intellect and what she shared with the world and what she shared with many women and young boys. So I think her legacy 20 years from now will be, she'll be on the Mount Rushmore of the civil rights movement, as she should be.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that one, 1000%. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Menace to Society. That's when you first met Tupac. Am I correct in that assessment?
Met him a year before Menace started. I met him when we were still doing music videos, and we had the Menace script, but nothing was happening at that time. So, and by the way, it's the Menace 30th anniversary this year as well.
All right.
Menace 30.
Yeah. All right. Snaps and claps for all of that. Let's talk a little bit about casting him in Menace. Mm-hmm. You know, what made you said you worked with him on a music video a year prior. What was it that lingered in the back of your mind at that moment, that when you were beginning to start to cast Menace, you were like, let's see this brother for this part right here?
Well, we had done 3 music videos with him, and he was in other music videos we had done as well. And we knew, this is before Juice came out, that he was a star. Like, you could, it was a blind, deaf, and whatever person could feel that energy. Um, he was magical in that way. So we all talked about doing movies together. But by that time, John Singleton had cast him in Poetic Justice, and he was in love with the process of working with John Singleton only. So he agreed to just do a small role in ours, which is all we needed at the time. And he was going to play the Muslim character Sharif in Menace Society, and then it got a little disruptive, and he got a little erratic, and unfortunately we had to part ways, and that's what happened.
Okay, so we've talked about Afeni's legacy, we've talked about Tupac's legacy, but how do you think your legacy as a filmmaker with Menace to Society and all the music videos that you've done and Dead Presidents and this mini TV series Dear Mama will hold up 50 years from now?
I hope, well, I hope it's just known as a truth teller and an individual. And when I was with my brother, we're doing things that people, like, didn't see. Oh, that's an interesting way. I didn't understand why those kids did that. Or I didn't understand that in the case of Dead Presidents, the condition of Black Vietnam veterans and what they had to go through. And now in my solo career, from Defiant Ones to Dear Mama to the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary that I wrote and produced, there's like insights into these characters, these journeys that are diverse and different, and just maybe you're looking at the world and these human beings in ways you hadn't before. Hopefully that's the legacy, and be incredibly inspired by it.
I'm inspired by you. I saw that Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary. That was fire. You are fire. I'm so happy that you make, like, seriously. And anybody that knows me will tell you, I don't just give compliments for the sake of giving them. I'm so not that doll, but I'm really not. But thank you so much for carving time out for me today. I wholeheartedly appreciate it. And this was a wonderful bucket list moment for me. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much, Carla. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. I know y'all are sitting there going, she always got a bucket list interview. You don't understand. I've been in show business for more than 20 years. And there are so many people that I have wanted to meet that I never got a chance to cross their path. Never, ever, ever. And he is one of them. So when I say that, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And because he's created some wonderful artistic cinematic pieces that I love, that defined my generation. So, it was a bucket list for me. So thank you, Allen, for taking that time to talk to me. I appreciate you. Check out Dear Mama on FX Hulu when you have an opportunity, y'all. It is really, really quite enlightening. And you get to see that Tupac Shakur was a bright light who burned for a very short period of time, but he made use of that time while he was here. All right, so when I come back next week, which is August 27th, I'm going to talk about this film, Gran Turismo, that's based on a video game. I'm going to talk about Golda with Helen Mirren. Oh, that's a terrible picture. Sorry about that. And I'm speaking to Dorsey Alavi, who is the director of this documentary coming to Amazon Prime Video. It's called Wayne Shorter, Zero Gravity. It is a documentary series, and it is absolutely riveting. And in addition to that, I'm also going to be talking about this film called The Dive. That film, oh, I can't wait to tell you about that film. That film, it's been a really long time since I sat and watched a film and was riveted from one frame to the last. Like, that film was crazy. And I think I had a different mindset watching it because I had just seen that documentary, The Deepest Breath, a couple of weeks ago. And so I watched it from a different vantage point. I probably will have a live guest going into the Labor Day weekend and do a little TIFF preview. And on September 10th, there will be no live show. There may not there will be no live show. I may have something taped regarding a TIFF recap, and there may or may not be a show on September 17th because my birthday is the day before on September 16th, and I might be hungover. So I'm just saying it might be a situation. But thank you so much for joining me and tuning in, whether you're seeing this live or whether you're seeing it taped. I appreciate y'all. I thank you for listening and trusting what I have to say about movies and listening to my interviews and watching them. It means so very much to me. I really do appreciate you. And yeah, so until the next time, stay safe, stay sane. If you are in LA, please, I hope that you have your provisions, your water, and that you went out and got some stuff, because when hurricanes and floodwaters hit here, the drainage issue in LA is always a situation because they didn't build it properly or something. So the streets end up getting flooded. The last time we had something like this, my driveway ended up getting flooded. And child, I had a Mustang at the time and the water almost overtook my Mustang. It was this close to the door. So just I'm giving prayers and big ups and encouragement to everybody out there. All right, so I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna go. But if you haven't checked out the rest of the interviews on my YouTube channel, there's some really great things there. I'm gonna try to bring some more of that content to you as the strike continues, to remind you of what's there and show you some things that you may not have seen before. So having said that, take it light. Love, peace, and hair grease, and deuces. Until the next time, baby. Bye.